What's up, everybody? Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Come on. Come on. I thought we were ready. Oh, yeah, we are ready. Great. Here we are. Awesome. Let's do it. What's up, everybody? How's it going? So I'm so excited. Yesterday, my apologies for not making it to the live. Some things came up. Some family stuff came up. And man, family comes first. So I hope you can respect that and appreciate it. So I'm fired up because today we're going to be talking about the nine of my top insights that I've had over the past 9 years. Because yesterday was my birthday. I officially turned 37 years old yesterday. I know, happy birthday to me. It was great. Thanks for the love. And over the last 9 years, 9 years ago when I was in my late 20s, was when I had my ultimate low, which I've shared that story before. I'm not going to dig in on that one today, but that was the beginning of leaning into my ADHD, embracing it, starting to face it, learn about it, understand it, get support, get a coach, like find the right treatment plan. That's where it all started. And then over the past 9 years, I've learned a lot. And so I'm going to give you the top nine insights from my 9-year journey with turning towards my ADHD, starting to embrace it, understand it, be open to the surprises, be interested in it, be fascinated by it, and start to change my life as a result. So I'll talk about the 9 takeaways first off, for those of you that are wondering if you want to stick around or not. So we're going to talk about embracing neuroplasticity, why that's so important. Number 2, we're going to talk about the power of mindfulness, how that has changed everything for me. We're going to talk about number 3, leveraging hyperfocus, why you should, why you definitely need to be aware of it, and capitalizing on that strength and ability if you have an ADHD brain. 4, we're going to talk about navigating social perceptions. Number 5, we're going to talk about the role of structure and flexibility. Number 6, we're going to talk about celebrating small wins. 7, the impact of support systems. 8, why continuous learning and adaptation on your ADHD journey is crucial. And then number 9, we're going to talk about advocating for ADHD and why that's been so helpful and essential. Okay, so digging in with number 1, neuroplasticity. What is it? So the shorthand version of this is that for most of human civilization, for most of the years that your parents, your uncle, your aunts, your grandparents have existed, what we thought was the case with the human brain was that we reached a certain age where we stopped being able to really learn how to do new things. That our brain reached a certain age where that's why people say, hey, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? That comes from the fact that the scientific community believed for a long time that you reach a point in your life where game over. Like, hope you learned some great stuff. Hope you acquired some amazing skills, right? Hope you created those habits because you're not going to be able to continue learning, to continue improving, leveling up, and gaining new mastery over new things in your life. Well, that is totally false. Neuroplasticity is the truth and revelation that we've only discovered in the last 15 years or so through cutting edge brain imagery technology. We know now that the human brain has a profound ability to actually form new neural connections throughout your entire life. And yes, as you get older, everything starts to slow down, right? Like no one's saying that your brain's ability to learn new things is going to be as peak at age 70 as it was at age, 5 or 15 years old. But it's totally false that it just fades away or doesn't exist. You should give up on the truth, which is you can keep learning. You can keep adapting. You can keep bettering your life. You can find new habits that serve you and your family more. You can find new ways of doing things. You can get new hobbies, and you can learn continuously throughout the decades and seasons of your life. That's such a profound insight. So if you have ADHD, that's the first thing to know is that you need to start embracing your neuroplasticity, because no matter how broken you feel like your brain is, or how much of a deficit or a disorder or a disservice your ADHD has been for you in your life, the truth is that can all change. But it takes first recognizing that and deciding, I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep adapting, because your age doesn't matter. So that's insight number one. Insight number two is all about the power of mindfulness. Man, this one, mindfulness. Why does mindfulness feel so difficult, yet also like really low barrier of entry? I mean, mindfulness doesn't require special tools. It doesn't require a gym. It doesn't require anything other than a human being who's willing to practice it. So why is it so hard? Well, that's probably another conversation for another time. But if you have ADHD, one, you're probably thinking what I initially thought with mindfulness, which is like, man, how am I going to ever practice mindfulness when I have a hard time just being bored, right? ADHD brains hate being bored, hate it. We abhor it. We try to do everything we can to feed our brains new novelty, new excitement, like new. So boring is the antithesis. It's the enemy of your ADHD brain. But mindfulness, really, I missed the boat with mindfulness for most of my life because, one, people weren't talking about it. It wasn't a trendy thing until recent years. But even today, as we know the research, we know how game-changing it is. Let's just talk about that first. Talk about the research. So one of a game-changing book for me was I read this book called Your Brain at Work by Dr. David Rock years ago. And I just love this book. It's all about strategies it's right here, I'm looking at it. It's all about strategies for overcoming distraction, regaining focus, and working smarter all day long. There's new books that have new insights, but this one was such a game changer for me. And one of the reasons was it talked about some of the trending topics like mindfulness, but it backed it up by the science. So let me just read you some quotes from that book. If you've considered mindfulness, but you're like, what's the point? Like, what can mindfulness actually do? So the act of paying close attention changes the structure of your brain. So just the act of paying close attention to something changes the structure of your brain. That's why I've talked about here on live before. If you want to try mindfulness and you feel like you just can't figure out how to get into it, one of the best things you can do is just take your fingertips, put them together, and just start rubbing them. Almost like you're really fascinated with understanding what fingertips are. Like you're a little kid and you're feeling all the ridges and the soft parts and the top part that might have some calluses on it. Like you're feeling the fingertips. You're assessing the temperature of your fingertips. You're just thinking about that. If you just sat down and took two fingertips and rubbed them together for just 60 seconds and close your eyes, that's usually pretty helpful. But just that act of paying close attention to something begins to change the structure of your brain. Mindfulness also helps you break the cycle of being hijacked by your emotions. Another huge issue for ADHDers, right? Like, man, we have big highs and ultimate lows. And when your ADHD is unmanaged and you haven't started learning about it, embracing it, like, really, you got ADHD, but you're nowhere closer than you've ever been to hacking it, right? Getting the most out, optimizing it. Mindfulness, and the more you practice it, it changes the structure of your brain. So when those emotions hit you, emotions that make you want to rage, emotions that make you super sad or angry or stressed or anxious, instead of just letting your day be completely overtaken by an emotion, mindfulness helps you actually begin to learn the truth of emotions. Emotions are temporary. They're very real, and we all feel them. So your emotions are not wrong, and your emotions are supposed to be felt, and they're supposed to be noticed. But they are not supposed to consume you. They're not supposed to overtake your day and just throw you off. Emotions are supposed to be experienced, and then they leave. So if that's not happening, mindfulness can help you start breaking that cycle. Another quote from the book is, when you pay mindful attention, you gain awareness of what's happening inside and outside of you. And this awareness allows you to choose how to respond rather than react. Oh my gosh, I love that. Because literally that is any mindfulness guru, someone like me who's been practicing 20 minutes of mindfulness pretty much every single day for years now. When I started to lock that in consistently, that was the awareness I had. I started to notice ways I was feeling. And I also started to notice the things that were happening outside of me. And I was able to notice and recognize both and then choose my response rather than simply reacting and apologizing for it later or feeling guilty or shaming myself or being disappointed in my reaction versus being proud of the response that I chose. Another quote from the book, mindfulness creates a space between stimulus and response. And in that space lies our freedom and power to choose. I'm gonna read that again. You should probably write that down. Mindfulness creates a space between stimulus and response. And in that space lies your freedom and power to choose. I mean, that's what we want. That's what I wanted. When I started on my journey of ADHD is I wanted to reach this place of freedom. I wanted to reach a place of more self-agency, of feeling like I was stepping into my power, where I actually had more control over my outcomes, my success that I knew was possible, but it was just slipping through my fingers. Another quote about mindfulness from the book. By training your brain through mindfulness, you can improve your capacity to manage stress and remain calm under pressure. So freaking good. This is one of the mind-blowing things of mindfulness is that as you start practicing this, you start noticing that things that used to stress you out, like, for example, something that used to stress me out a whole lot more than it does now is when I'd be in a flow, I'd be like really making progress on something, and then I get interrupted. Like my wife interrupts me, or someone at work interrupts me. And then I would bark at them, or I would just appear frustrated, but I try to hold it together. And I never appreciated the ways that I would treat people when this would happen. But as I practiced mindfulness, I recognized, whoa, when that used to happen, my response used to be totally different. But now I'm actually remaining more calm. Even though I can recognize there's a lot of pressure, even though I can see all the stress. And my wife will even tell me, she'll say, how are you not freaking out? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. And it starts to surprise other people because what most people are used to is uncontrolled emotions. What most people are used to is just reacting. And when you meditate, when you practice mindfulness, you start to separate yourself because you all of a sudden look weird because you're able to hold it together. You're able to rise above the noise and all the chaos and actually start to experience more peace. I know this sounds like some hooky, like crazy stuff. Alejandra, thanks for showing up. Oh my gosh. I love that you're feeling this. She says, thank you for talking about managing our emotions. Thank you. Yeah, this is huge, right? Because when we become in control of our emotions, we become more in control of how we make other people feel. And we become masters of the way that we feel and experience each of our days in our life. And that's what we want. Another quote from the book says, the practice of mindfulness strengthens the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for higher order thinking and self-control. We talk about the prefrontal cortex a lot because that is an area of the brain that is inhibited by ADHD. In ADHD brain, the way it's made up, our prefrontal cortex is often offline and it's not firing on all cylinders like it should. And since obviously that's very important for higher order thinking, for self-control, for planning, for organizing, for priority setting, pretty important. Mindfulness strengthens that. It's like building your muscle of your prefrontal cortex. Pretty freaking important. The last little quote I want to share from the book says, mindfulness helps you become aware of the stories you tell yourself and realize that you can change these narratives. Woo! Man, I'm so glad this is being recorded. So if you just dared yourself to start practicing mindfulness and start small, 1 minute a day, just do the fingertips together. Close your eyes and just rub your fingertips together. Think about the temperature of your fingers. Think about the ridges. Think about what your fingers are feeling as they're rubbing against one another. Just do that for 60 seconds. And if you do that multiple times a day, and then once you have that locked in and you're doing it, then you can level up to, okay, I'm gonna do 3 minutes of that. I'm gonna do 5 minutes. And I'm just getting you started. But I hope you can start to see, like, this will start to change your life. This isn't just hyperbole. This isn't just someone's, idea or just a hypothesis. Like, we have hard proof science, brain imaging to back up all of the results and the proof that mindfulness will completely change your life. So I won't pound that in anymore, but if you have ADHD, stop doubting the power of mindfulness. Stop making up excuses and reasons why it's not for you. And give yourself the gift today of beginning to be intentional. So that way you can actually experience more power and agency when it comes to how you feel, when it comes to the stories you tell yourself, when it comes to the emotions you have, when it comes to how you choose to respond to everything that comes at you in life. So good, right? Okay. The next thing I want to talk about this is number 3, leveraging hyperfocus. Man, hyperfocus, even news outlets like CNN have even talked about hyperfocus before, and the fact that it's a real thing. This ability to do one activity, to focus on one thing for an obscene amount of time and not break focus, not break that flow, is a phenomenon. And it's a phenomenon that ADHD brains and other neurodivergent friends, like our autism friends on the autism spectrum, we can experience hyperfocus much more often. We just stumble into that phenomenon more often than neurotypical brains. So if you have a propensity to hyperfocus, why would you not learn how to do it more? Why would you not educate yourself on what it is? Educate yourself on the ways that you can stumble into it. Because let me just tell you, if it's one of the reasons so many ADHD meds are abused by neurotypicals, because they can't hyperfocus like you can. So don't sleep on that. Don't sleep on that ability. And that's been so huge for me. Just learning how to do that. The more you know, the more you're exposing yourself to knowledge about the ways your ADHD brain works, the gifts that come with it, the propensity you have to be triggered by certain things, to do weird things, or whatever, you start to become more aware. And that awareness builds the capacity to decide to change, to decide to do more or less of something. That's where you start to experience that power. So number 4 is navigating social perceptions. So if you have ADHD, man, just think about all of the perceptions that others have about ADHD. All like the stigma, the judgments, the quick write-offs, like the ways that people, when they hear ADHD, it doesn't generally make people go, oh man, like that person must be super brilliant. No, it usually leads to a lot of weird and different assumptions. And as you step on this journey of turning towards your ADHD brain, being willing to learn more, being willing to understand it, being willing to conquer it, to master it, to hone it, to harness it, you will start to change people's perception. You will start to be one of the people out there who's forcing other people to check themselves and like rethink the beliefs that they have about any neurodivergence, right? ADHD, along with many other like brain differences. So that's 4. Number 5, the role of structure and flexibility. I have some notes here. So, we're going to jump back real quick to mindfulness. I forgot to share this. So this was a little excerpt from that book, Your Brain at Work, I was mentioning. I highlighted, circled this, underlined it, and I just love this. It says, in just 30 days of practicing mindfulness, you can experience significant changes in your brain structure and function. Regular mindfulness practice increases the thickness of the prefrontal cortex, which is associated with higher order brain functions such as awareness, concentration, and decision-making. It also decreases the density of the amygdala, which plays a key role in your stress and anxiety. These changes help you respond more calmly and thoughtfully to everyday situations, rather than reacting impulsively. So, I know, I totally ADHD moment, had to hop back to that. I want to make sure I shared that. Mindfulness meditation. Embrace it and change your freaking life. Okay, where were we? We were talking about number 5, the role of structure and flexibility. So, if we move on to that, I'm all over the place here. Going back to hyperfocus. So give you an example of someone who has really proven hyperfocus has changed their life, and harnessing it has made the difference for them. It's someone named Peter Shankman. Peter Shankman is a respected, just incredible spokesperson, author, and prolific entrepreneur with ADHD. He's outspoken about his ADHD. He has an amazing podcast, Faster Brain. I think I'm getting that wrong, but he's amazing. His ability to hyperfocus became his superpower. So despite early on, he struggled with traditional office environments and structured tasks, Peter started discovering when he was deeply interested in a project, he could achieve extraordinary results, just crazy results. So if you're not familiar with Peter Shankman, check his stuff out. Let's see, where's his book? Here it is, Faster Than Normal. I think that's what his podcast is called. Man, this guy, I read this book in a day. One of the few books I've ever done that. It's over 200 pages. I cracked this baby open. It was a day off from work, and I couldn't put it down. Tore it up. Highly recommend it. Okay. Wow. I digress. All right. The role of structure and flexibility. So some of my clients that I work with, right? I'm an ADHD high performance coach. Yes, you can work with me. You can explore that. You can get on a call, go to my website, click on any of the links, and you can just answer a couple quick questions, and then we can get on a call together. Like, number one, even if we don't work together, we'll get on that call, and I want to serve you. I guarantee that time we spend together, you will leave better off. You will leave with a couple tools. You'll leave with some new insight. And I'll know that I served you. And if it is an amazing match, and you're like, oh my gosh, what would it look like to work together? Like, let's keep this going. We can talk about that too. So some of my clients I've worked with, not surprisingly, they have ADHD, and they'll often find it really challenging to follow a strict schedule and to stick to really rigid routines, which leads to frustration and disappointment and feeling embarrassed and shaming yourself. And yeah, it's not great. Well, one of the keys to overcoming that is beginning to learn, understand, and build a structured but flexible design for your work, for your life. So what does this look like? So for example, instead of sticking to a minute-by-minute schedule, I've advised some of my clients before how important it is to build some buffer, right? Build some buffer in your schedule, right? Plan on things taking longer than you anticipate, because that's very true with ADHD. If you're planning on how long something should take and you think, oh, it'll take 20 minutes, double it. All right. Dr. Ned Hallowell, I got that from him. Double that, right? If you think it's 20 minutes, it's going to take 40 minutes. Double it, save your life. But anytime you're setting meetings with people, give yourself buffer, right? So if that meeting needs to go a little long, or there is flexibility to maybe stay in that meeting and keep the synergy going, you're not stressing out about it. This is so huge, because as an ADHDer, your tendency is to you don't want any schedule at times, because schedules can feel limiting. And you know that at best, you really enjoy going with the flow. You really enjoy just kind of seeing where the wind takes you, right? It's part of what gets us in trouble when we're like flying by the seat of our pants. This is a good description. But a little bit of that is important, because if there's not enough breathing room, you're suffocating your creativity. If there's not enough breathing room, say goodbye to innovation. If there's not enough breathing room, you can't connect and maybe nurture a relationship that you've just remembered, man, I've totally been wanting to connect with that person. I really want to call them. I really want to reach out. That buffer, it gives your ADHD the room it needs so you can answer the call of your brain. Because what our brains do, what your ADHD brain tends to do, is it comes up with things and ideas and insights and breakthroughs all the time. And it happens even more when you're starting to feed it what it needs: exercise, sleep, mindfulness, healthy diet, all the things. And you get these ideas and insights all the time. And there's a lot of different strategies. You can write things down and come back to it later. But there's nothing more gratifying for an ADHD brain. You know what I'm talking about. If you have ADHD, there's nothing more satisfying than getting an idea and being able to immediately just like dive into it. It feels so good because we are following the natural rhythm of how we're made. So it's so important to adjust your expectations and not try and be like everyone else. Just practically, the way that this has worked for some of my clients in the past is instead of a minute-by-minute schedule, they'll create time blocks, right? Like a big chunk of time to do kind of a variety of things, right? So instead of getting like real granular, like, I'm going to take out the trash and it's going to take me 9 minutes, they'll say house chores for this hour, right? And we've already discussed what those house chores are. They know what those are, right? Or follow up communication with my existing clients, right? You can decide in advance what the follow-up communication is, but the broad like paintbrush of time that you have to focus on those things, it feels much more in line with the way that your ADHD actually enjoys going about life. So it's a marriage of structure and flexibility. Anyway, I digressed. But I've had clients that was really game-changing to stop forcing themselves to fit in some hole, in some box that they were never fitting in, right? And it begins with learning and recognizing that you are not like most people. You are not like everyone else. And that process, like you opening up to that truth, begins the journey of you being able to become aware and more in tune with how things could actually be different to support you, to support a better life for yourself. Okay, number 6, celebrate small wins. Oh gosh, this one's so huge. So celebrating small wins, this is such a big one. I lost my notes. Where did my notes go? Oh, here they are. Great. We're good. I'm back. All right. So celebrating small wins. This is so huge because with ADHD, it's really easy for us to become overwhelmed by our super long to-do list. We have this huge to-do list with all the things that we've been telling ourselves, I have to get this done. This has to get done by this date, and I'm going to accomplish all 50 of these things today. And when tomorrow comes and we didn't accomplish all those things, we get down. We beat ourselves up. We're disappointed. We let ourselves down. And we probably let other people down because we make promises we can't keep. Oh, I'm going to crush that today. Don't worry. I'm going to get that done. And then your spouse is like, you didn't do it. What gives? Well, that tendency to focus on trying to get too much done and having these to-do lists that live forever, it starts to demoralize you. And you become really unmotivated. And you become a shell of the incredible, beautiful, brilliant person that God created you to be. So one way to address this is to start recognizing and celebrating the small wins, which are happening all the time. Now, I've worked with clients before where this doesn't seem like rocket science, but it's not something that most people will know to advise you to focus on. Because remember, you are not like everyone else. And the moment you start embracing that and understanding it is the moment you start to see these insights, gain the self-awareness, experience the breakthroughs. So if you got the crazy to-do list, okay, and you're overwhelmed by it, here's an idea. Give yourself a break. Twice a day. I like to do mine midday and then before dinner to just recognize, what have you gotten done? Where have you made progress? What can you jot down and say, yeah, I did that thing. Yeah, I started that. I got a little further on that project. And then at the end of the day, before you go to bed, actually reflect and make a few notes, right? What did you do? Like 3 wins. Before I go to sleep each night, I love doing Jim Quick, brain extraordinaire. He helped me adopt this practice. Before I go to bed, I have my head on the pillow and I think about the 3 wins that I had in that day that I just lived. 3 wins. For example, my 3 wins yesterday, my wife and I had a huge fight. It really sucked. That was actually a big reason I wasn't on the live, because we were fighting. It wasn't great. And then, but that's not the win. The win was later, I was able to circle back with her and have a much better conversation. That was a big win for me. Another win for me was my mother-in-law is visiting and she needed to be picked up from the airport. And my wife was going to go get her, but instead we booked her an Uber that drove her and dropped her off here at home. We didn't have to do that, but I helped my wife and I decide that's the best thing for us. And we did. That was a big win. Another big win was that yesterday I actually got an opportunity to have some really sweet moments with my daughter. 3 wins, okay? They don't need to be groundbreaking. Some days they're going to feel so, you're going to tell yourself they're insignificant, but they're not. 3 wins, and then think about the 3 wins you want to have tomorrow. This is so huge because it's so easy with your ADHD brain to just get in the day and start like sprinting. And then you pick your head up, you pause, and you're like, oh, whoa, like, how did I get here? How did it get to 5 p.m. and I haven't done any of the things I actually set out to do today? Before you go to bed, reflect on the 3 wins, acknowledge and honor yourself for those. And then think about the 3 wins that you want to have the next day. And that actually helps your brain like go to sleep and actually be processing and making new neural connections. And your brain's working when you're asleep. So you can wake up and actually give yourself more of a chance to maybe have some insights, some breakthroughs, and maybe have some better ways of going about crushing your day and getting those 3 wins accomplished. So that's so big. Number 7, the impact of support systems. Dude, this is so freaking huge. I've talked about this before. Do not isolate yourself. If you have ADHD, the worst thing you could possibly do. Oh, what's up, man? Celluloid Skater. He says, hey, bud, long time, bro. Love the content. Where else are you streaming on? Dude, appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Coach Kelsey showed up. Thank you for tuning in. Carrie DeWitt showed up. What's up, Carrie? My brother, Nate Loofborough. Nana Susanna Stiles showed up. Man, I'm feeling the love. Thank you, guys. Anyway, digress. So just wanted to give some love there. Just say thank you, honor all of you for just tuning in, checking it out. So number 7, impact of support systems. Your support system, including your family and friends, is mission critical for your healthy, abundant, purposeful journey with ADHD. And this is so vital because we spend a lot of time as ADHDers in our own head. We spend a lot of time, especially if you're at the beginning of your journey. You're not doing meditation. Like your brain is feeding you a lot of negative stories that you feel like you don't have control over, right? You're in the midst of the overwhelm, of the chaos, of feeling out of control. You need people more than ever. That should be the first thing you do. The first thing of anything on this list is find your people, find your support. For me, back in 2016, I need a coach. I need a coach. I need someone who understands ADHD, who can take my crazy and help guide me towards a direction that I trust will make things better for me. And that's what I did. I found my first ADHD coach. And then what I started to do was just find other people at work who I trusted, started bringing them closer, started being more intentional, started going to lunch with certain people, started getting on the phone with certain people, right? Like maybe your friendships have kind of gone down the tubes because you're struggling at work, because your marriage, your relationship with your partner's on the rocks. Like everything, all the things in life that matter are burning and are on fire. And so your friendships have taken a turn for the worse. You can today choose to lean back into those. But understand that all friends are not the best fit friends for you. So if your friends don't build you up, if you find yourself spending time with people and when you get done spending time with them, you feel worse. Like they're draining you. That's a clue. It's a clue that you need to be on the lookout for new people and new friends. For me, in recent years, that was getting involved in communities with other like-minded people. It was getting involved with online communities of ADHD adults. It was getting connected with other people who wanted more from their life, who wanted to not feel stuck. They wanted to build a legacy. They wanted to be proud of their work. They wanted to find meaning and purpose and hope. And they knew that their current life that they were living was not all they were made for. Those are the people I wanted to be around. And so I found those communities. So the impact of support systems, so huge. Let me see, I have a couple notes on that to just share a couple insights. Oh yeah, gosh, this is so big. Melissa Orlov, incredible expert on ADHD and its effect on marriages. So I read her book, The ADHD Effect on Marriage by Melissa Orlov. Man, so many profound examples, anecdotes from there. But one, she talked about somebody that she was working with. And since then, I've worked with people in my coaching practice who they're struggling in their marriage. At one point, I was really struggling in my marriage because when you have ADHD and your partner doesn't, or vice versa, right? If you're the spouse or partner on here and you're like, I am going crazy because I don't have ADHD, but they do, and I don't know how to live with them any longer. Let me tell you why this happens. We tend to struggle if you have ADHD with forgetfulness, right? You say you're going to do something, then you don't do it. Impulsivity, impulsive spending, which leads to a terrible financial picture and outlook, what's the number one predictor of a broken home? Finances, right? Fighting about finances, disagreeing on them. Our impulsive nature doesn't typically help us kick ass in that way. We also struggle often, if you have ADHD, with maintaining routines, right? You're always switching it up. You're always looking for a new way, a new path, a new product, a new app, a new subscription, a new hobby, new. That might be fun for your ADHD brain, but it's exhausting for the other people who love you and are connected or tied to you in your life, right? They love you, they appreciate you, but they're exhausted because their brain doesn't work that way. Their brain is at peace when they're following routines. And the fact that you don't is pissing them off to no end. Well, in her book, Melissa Orlov talks about some clients she worked with, and I've also since worked with some clients where this was happening. This happened for me. This is exactly what happened for me when my marriage is really on the rocks at points. And this is going to sound so like this isn't going to sound like rocket science, but it truly is this simple. If you will start reading a book about ADHD, maybe you're going to start jumping in these lives with me 3 times a week. Maybe you're going to, sign up for some workshop that you're going to attend in person or online, where you're going to meet other people with ADHD. You're going to hear and learn from incredible experts on ADHD. And that process, that choice to start learning, it's what begins to change everything. Because as you, with the ADHD, gain a deeper understanding of how your brain works, that knowledge helps you recognize the patterns and the triggers that your spouse, your partner, your friends, your coworkers, people are telling you, maybe through yelling, that they notice. But you aren't noticing. You're not seeing the problem with it. And you start to notice. And this is a healing journey, but it's a tough one, because as you start to notice, you want to change things. And it's slow. And it requires constant vigilance. It requires support. It requires the right tips. It requires the right insight. But as you become more self-aware, then you're able to actually share the right things with your spouse that help them understand, oh, that's what's going on for you? Wow, I never thought of that. I didn't realize. I saw an amazing video on TikTok today. Woo! Man, TikTok. So fun for your ADHD brain. Not great if it's not managed. I saw a TikTok video, and this woman was saying, if you love someone with ADHD, let me help you understand something. The worst thing that you could do for an ADHD brain is burden them with your anger, with your disappointment, with your frustration, with your silly questions like, why do you keep forgetting this? And why are you always letting me down? And like, why do you never follow through on what you say you're going to do? That only makes us with ADHD like crawl further and further into the hole, the black, dark hole of our shame, our embarrassment, feeling unfixable. The best way you can support a loved one with ADHD is with listening, with more compassion than they probably deserve, with exercising empathy, with being curious enough to want to understand, and staying encouraging. Remain a member of their team. Keep showing that person with ADHD that you got their back, right? Help them process. One of the best ways an ADHD can work through anything is by sharing. Like, we're sharers, baby. So if you want to help someone with ADHD, you want to help yourself, get around people who have capacity to listen to you. Because as you talk, your ADHD brain makes a ton of connections, a ton of insights, a ton of learning. That's how you're going to come up with your breakthroughs and the ways you can solve problems. That's one way, is talking it out with other people. So if you're the spouse dealing with an ADHD partner who's pissing you off, find ways that you can slow down and work on your own compassion, right? Jesus said it best. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Bottom line, it really makes a huge difference for us with ADHD. All right, 2 more here. Number 8 is continuous learning and adaptation. Man, so this is so big because your needs are going to keep evolving, right? If wherever you're at with your journey in your ADHD brain right now, if your relationship's on the rocks, if there's a crisis at work, if you're really blowing it as a parent, like your kids, you don't have a great relationship with your kids, because you're not making time for them. You're distracted all the time. You're following your impulsive nature, and it's it's getting the best of you. If you've fallen out of nurturing your friendships, if you're not part of communities that are building you up, wherever you're at, recognize that your needs are going to keep evolving. And that's true for all human beings, right? One of the biggest unlocks of marriage, one of the biggest gotchas, is that the person you marry, guess what? Surprise. That is not going to be, that person will not be the same. That won't be the same person in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years. We're all changing. And you're either changing by happenstance, you're changing by just the winds of change and the stresses of other people, and you're not controlling any of it, or you're changing based on your intention. You're changing based on your clarity around where you want to end up. You're changing because you've taken the time to actually think, what do I want my life to look like? You've taken the time, you're doing the work to learn about yourself, but your needs are going to keep evolving. And it's so important that you recognize that this journey of embracing your ADHD, understanding it, harnessing its potential, discovering your unfair advantage when it comes to ADHD, it is a lifelong journey. Now, I can tell you, 9 years in, I'm so much better off than I would have been had my career at Apple if I had kept skyrocketing and taking Tim Cook's job, which I never wanted, but you know what I'm saying, kept climbing the ladder. And if I just kept kicking ass and taking names, it would have led to one type of success, but it wouldn't have led to the agency I feel today. It wouldn't have led to the power that I often feel today, that I have. It wouldn't have led to the self-awareness. It wouldn't have led to a better relationship with my wife. It wouldn't have led to a healthier balance of time for myself, time for my loved ones, time for self-care, time for work, time for rest. It wouldn't have led to all the good that has made me a better man and just a more whole version of myself. So understand that your journey, your process, and wherever you're at, it's going to continue, and you're going to keep adapting, and you're going to keep trying new things. You're going to fall on your face, but it's going to feel so much better and different than staying put and feeling stuck, because you're going to be moving. Man, an object in motion stays in motion. It feels so much better to move and keep moving than it ever does to just stay put, because you're too scared, because you're alone, because you are terrified, because you don't know what to do. Get moving. Get on a call with me. Go to my website, heroicadhd.com or rosslufborough.com, and schedule a call with me. Let's get on the phone. If you know someone else that needs to hear this message, please send them to my website. Schedule the call for them. Because what have you got to lose? This is your one precious life. How are you going to live it? How are you going to experience it? And number 9, advocating for ADHD. Man, the advocating for ADHD part has been the hardest. Because in the beginning, I wasn't interested in advocating for my ADHD. I was only interested in just fixing myself and waving my hands and getting someone to throw me a life preserver so I wouldn't drown in my own mess. But as I've continued on this journey, as you start to recognize that you're always a few steps ahead of somebody else. There's always people out there going through exactly what you're going through and worse. And there's always folks ahead of you and behind you, or right at the same point where you're at in your journey. And I just realized it would be selfish for me to not advocate for ADHD. It would be selfish for me to not begin to change the narrative and be outspoken and provide people a different lens and share the hope and share the promise and the potential. It'd be a crime for me not to. And that's where I got. And that's where you're going to get. You're going to get to a place where maybe you're hiding your ADHD from everyone. Maybe you wish it was not a part of your existence. But as you keep learning and growing and changing and adapting and you start thriving, you're going to be able to pay it forward. And you're going to be excited to help someone else along. And man, that is when it comes full circle. I have a client I've been working with for 1.5 years. I just got a message from someone really close to this person. And they said I was going to pull out my phone, and I realized my phone is actually currently being used for something else to stream on TikTok. Here's what they said. This person messaged me and they said, "Hey Ross, the work you've done with my so-and-so, this client, is amazing. It's amazing. And I want to learn more. I think ADHD has been a major issue in my own relationship and in my professional career." Man, when you start to experience that, that's when you know. That's when you can celebrate and reflect and go, man, it was all worth it. Because at the end of the day, we need each other. We need connection. We need support. We want to help people. People want to help you. I want to help you. I want to help that person that you're thinking about right now and you're going, man, I think this person in my life, I know they have ADHD and they've struggled and I think they should talk to Ross. Connect us. If you're having that urge, connect us. Because that could be the ripple that could change everything for them. And they might be standing here where I'm sitting right now and going, it was all worth it. 9 years of hard work. I never imagined I'd be at it for 9 years. They'll be able to say, wow, I'm so glad. I'm so glad I turned towards my ADHD. I'm so glad I started embracing one of the most unique aspects of who God made me to be. And I'll leave you with this. I've worked and talked with a lot of ADHD adults out there, and you know what they all will say? If you ask them, hey, if you could wave a magic wand right now and swap out all the downsides of your ADHD, but you'll also lose all the ADHD traits and positives and advantages and quirks and tendencies and abilities, would you give it all away if you could just have a neurotypical brain? And you know what they all say? No way. I would never give it up. Why is that? I've never spoken to someone who's taken any time to learn about ADHD who's ever said, if you could switch out my brain right now, I would. They never do. And it's not because they don't recognize the struggle. It's not because they don't feel all the shit that they have to deal with when they're working through the muck of living with ADHD and everything that comes with it. But it doesn't take you long to begin to see, oh, wow, this sets me apart. This makes me different. And if I lean into this, if I continue to really get a master's degree in my own brain, it's going to be the reason that I rise above so many others. It's going to be the reason that I'm able to be more, give more, become more, and ultimately arrive at a place that you probably have a hard time imagining, but you dream about it. That's the gift of ADHD. All right, is anyone still here? Got a few people on. Anyone have any questions? Been going for an hour, just, woo, don't get me going. Like I said, ADHDers, we like to share. So drop a comment if anyone has a question, anything at all. Again, if you've made it this far, wow, if you made it this far, like, wish I could give you a big hug and just like celebrate you and say thank you. Comment down below. What do you want to hear about? What are you struggling with if you have ADHD? What do you see someone else who has an ADHD brain struggling with? And you want some insight. You want some support. You want some tools. What is it? Talk to me, because I'm doing this for you. All right? This isn't my favorite thing. The going live thing, it's not my favorite, because I'm just looking at a screen of myself. All right? I would much rather be looking at your face. I would much rather be on a call with you, interacting, vibing, having fun, like soaking up the energy of each other. That's my jam. I'm doing this because it's a key way that I know I'll be able to have more of those calls, and I'll be able to reach people and help others understand the truth about their ADHD, which is much more nuanced than almost anything that the world wants to tell you. All right, Kelly, what's up? Thanks for joining. Man, Kelly's one of my favorites I've ever worked with at Apple. She's a gem. Thanks for showing up. Oh my gosh. Shella, thanks for showing up. So fun. Okay. No comments. Y'all are shy. That's okay. We'll keep this going. I'll be back tomorrow. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But yesterday didn't happen. If you want to know why, you can watch the whole thing. But I'll be back tomorrow and Friday around the same time, right around 12:15, 12:30, and we'll go from there. All right? Love y'all. Visit my website. Let's get on a call. What have you got to lose? HeroicADHD.com or RossLoofborough.com. And I hope to connect with you soon. All right. See you guys.